Right. Got people joining here. We're going to wait just probably about 30 seconds as other people join. All right. Great to have you all. We're excited for this one. It's our first BBI one, so it's very exciting. All right, we got people jumping in here. Okay, well, let's get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at the Start, Grow, Protect, and Building a Resilient Beauty Business with live Q&A. This is presented by Beauty and Bodywork Insurance and the Professional Beauty Association. So whether you're getting started in the beauty industry or you have a few years in the chair, today's session is designed to help you build your business to not only be successful, but be protected. We're going to talk a bit about starting, growing, some tips from some of our experts, and then protecting the insurance side. I'm Kyle. I'll be moderating today, and I'm thrilled to be joined by three incredible guests. Leslie Perry, she's the executive director of the Professional Beauty Association. Yolanda Johnson, licensed beauty professional and active PBA member, I hear. And Joanne Hammer, program manager at Beauty and Bodywork Insurance. Together, we'll talk through, like I said, some best practices for launching, growing, and protecting the business you've built, whether you're in a salon, running a suite, or traveling to clients. We're here to give you those tips. We'll also have some Q&A at the end, so please drop those questions into the Q&A at the bottom. We'll try to get to those. And just a quick reminder that today is really for educational purposes. Nothing should be construed as legal or insurance advice. We recommend you reach out directly with those questions. But with that, I'd love if our panelists could introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Yolanda. Give us a little background on who you are.
Absolutely. My name is Yolanda Johnson. I am the owner and founder of Integrated Roots International. We are educational design and consulting firm. So we design education for hair care, skin care, and I'm also a licensed cosmetologist. So I apply that to my clientele as well as scale it through educational services, through government, nonprofits, and business. So we have a very exciting path and mission to educate people on hair care and hair and scalp wellness. I'm also an owner of my own product line as of 1 year ago this month. And so I have a natural hair care line that is doing very well for its first year of running. And so that just adds to the resources that we offer in terms of this realm.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you'll have some great advice for our audience. So thank you for joining us. Leslie, you want to give a quick intro on yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Leslie Perry, the Executive Director of the Professional Beauty Association. I was born into the industry. My mom is a hairdresser for 35 years and owned a salon. My sister is still a hairdresser. And I followed the family way, and I became a licensed esthetician and makeup artist and ran a bridal makeup business for a number of years before joining PBA. So I like to say that beauty is in my blood. I love it. I love our industry. I love talking about how to start a business, how to be successful, and learn from the quote unquote failures that I had so that you can fail more quickly and be more successful more quickly as well. So I'm super excited to share some of what I've learned along the way and how we can all support one another in this incredible industry.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And Joanne, our resident insurance guru, I call you. You want to give a quick intro?
Thank you, Kyle. Joanne Hammer. I have been with Beauty and Bodywork Insurance as the program manager for 9 years now, and insurance a few years longer, we'll say. Happy to be here. We have been working with PBA for quite a while, and they are one of our favorite partners, and we're excited to share some great information with you.
I love it. Thank you. Well, let's jump into it. So we've broken this into start, grow, and protect your beauty business. So I guess we'll start with start to say. I guess why don't we start with you, Leslie? Can you give us some of the basics for somebody just looking at getting into the industry? Obviously, there's some education pieces, then licensing, and then really a decision at that point of where to take their career. Could you give us some basics advice on starting or getting into the industry from the way you know it?
So it depends first to decide, do I want to be a licensed professional and do I want to work with clients, or there are other opportunities on the business side where I could work for a brand, for example, and maybe work in sales or marketing or distribution. So there are really endless opportunities, but I know today we're talking more along the lines of having being a licensed professional, and then what does that mean as a business? So for me, it was determining, first of all, how do I do this legally? And that meant having my license in aesthetics so that I could do makeup and skincare professionally. And then once I had that license, it was also, you now are faced with a couple of opportunities. And do I want to work for someone else in a salon environment? Do I want to go out on my own and work in a suite environment, or rent a space, or have my own storefront? So you have a lot of different opportunities to decide. I would say when you're looking at that, depending on where you are in your career, you have to be really honest with yourself, because working for yourself, while it is an incredible opportunity, and I loved every second of having my own business and doing it, it's not for the faint of heart. And I know Yolanda can talk about this, that being a business owner, being a solopreneur, we call it a business of one at PBA, it takes a lot, because you're not only the practitioner and the one doing the services, but you're the one that has to learn very quickly the business side and the tax side and the insurance side and all of the sides of doing the business. So I would say first and foremost, decide what lane you want to play in. Is it cosmetology and hair? Is it skincare? Is it all of it? Is it nails, etc.? Get the license, the education, and then you're faced with, okay, do I work for someone else for a while? Do I start my own? And if I start my own, I really need to educate myself on what that means to be a business owner and how I can be successful.
Yeah, no, that's all great advice. Yolanda, I'm wondering if you could share any about your journey into that, how you decided to get started, and then maybe some lessons learned of either mistakes or how you kind of navigated it.
Definitely. Well, I have a very colorful beginning. I have been a connoisseur, so to speak, and natural hair care specialist for 25 years. I started in college. And as soon as I knew I loved it, I started looking into cosmetology, but life structuring was very different and it wasn't the right time for it. So I held on to the concept. But as soon as I was introduced to the world of cosmetology, I always wanted to protect my dreams and my visions for the future with it. So it helped bring that to the forefront, to make me aware of whatever would protect me both before I was licensed and then once I became licensed. And so I think it really did help to have that instruction upfront so that I could plan accordingly and maneuver accordingly. Like most stylists and people who have a passion for this, we learn from either doing it ourselves or somebody showed us, or as in Leslie's case, it runs in her family, it's in her blood, but you learn as you go. And so you don't always have the business the business examples ahead of you to understand really what that takes. And so I learned how to the skills that I needed for natural hair caregiving. And then I carried that into more of the professional setting once I was able to be licensed. And once I got that, it was like, okay, how do we get all of this protected and stay protected? I started as a braider, and my first move was to become a braider, get my braiding license because the state that I was in had a braiding license. And then you learn the parameters of that. And then from there, I went to full-on cosmetology, which gave me all access to everything, but that had to be protected as well. So I started off kind of as a sole proprietor, and protected myself as I needed to be based on the states. I also moved states. That brought my attention to different laws in different regions, all kinds of things that I picked up along the way of building. So I didn't come to where I'm at now with everything at my table and just, okay, let me lock down insurance, let me lock down building, let me lock down all these things. This is something that I've been very much so building as I go. And so as I learned those pieces, I continue to tie in. I got my first taste of insurance and understanding how to protect myself as a student. As a student, I participated in competitions, and the competition gave me a membership to a regional association. And with that regional association, there were benefits that they provided their members. It's my first example of how to utilize those benefits. And from there, I learned that there were people that not only were, say, for example, insurance providers, but they specialized in the type of insurance that would protect me and my profession. So You build as you go, but I feel like the more out there that you are, and I was one of those people that if it was there to be done, I was gonna do it. But of course, always protecting my vision and my mission. So that's kind of what my introduction was.
I appreciate that. And I think, like you said, and Leslie said, this is very much a solopreneur, entrepreneurial thing. Maybe this question is for you, Leslie. Maybe this is something PBA helps with. What are some of the resources somebody trying to start out? It sounds like there's a lot of different paths. Where can they find out information? Like what questions to ask and seek those out? Is that something you guys do, or is there other resources you could recommend?
There are a lot of resources, and some of it can be overwhelming to figure out. Oh my goodness, there's so much. Where do I even begin? And that's what I love about PBA and what we do at PBA, that when you do become a member, and Yolanda knows this, if you want to be active within PBA and take advantage of the resources we have, it is there for the taking. And so I would say getting involved with PBA early on in your career is a really smart move. Because we do have experts on our team. We have multiple of us are licensed professionals ourselves and have walked the walk that you are walking. And so we lend our expertise, and we will do phone calls with you. We will consult with you to help guide you through the resources that exist, whether in PBA from we have toolkits for what we call our business of one that has all kinds of information in it about starting the business, where do I begin, marketing, client development, acquisition, all of those pieces. We have businesses that want to pour in, like Beauty and Bodywork, that pour into our members and have all kinds of incredible resources. And what we like to do for our members is we vet all of this out for you because it is overwhelming. So you can trust that if we are putting our kind of seal of approval on it, that it is a trusted resource that you can rely on and use, and you don't have to go through all kinds of additional work and homework yourself. So for me, it definitely is getting involved at PBA and taking advantage of those resources that exist. And we also, if we don't have the resource internally, we will find it for you. I mean, that's another thing that we do because we want you to be successful and we don't want you to have to struggle because you don't have to. So those are some of the pieces. And then the other thing that we do is connect you with others in the industry who might be in your area, in your region, who are open to maybe serving as a mentor for you or consulting with you and just giving you advice and guiding you along the way. So you don't ever, even if you're in business for yourself, by yourself, you don't ever have to feel like you're truly alone.
In diving into this industry a bit for preparing for this, I've noticed it is not necessarily competitive. It is actually, working together in so many cases. And I think that's really cool that it's very much, yeah, a group think versus I want it versus, that kind of thing of a lot of other environments. I'm going to put you on the spot, Yolanda, a little bit. My question is, if you had to think of like one or two pieces of advice or wish you knew when getting started. Could you share that with our audience of something you wish you were told as you were getting into this?
What I have to echo what Leslie just said in terms of diving in. I did not know what I was doing when I first reached out to PBA, but I did it as soon as I started my business. And it was because, again, of the previous experience that I shared with you as a student. And so, well, because I didn't know, I just kind of threw myself in everything. And she's absolutely right. As soon as I jumped on board and got even signing up for membership, I didn't know where I fit in their listing of memberships. And so it was a conversation before it was me, pushing a button and sending money in, and all of a sudden I become a member of association. I have memberships with those types of associations, and there's hardly any engagement. It's really just there. This is a very different caliber. From day one, it was asking questions that seemed absolutely outlandish to me at the time, but was relevant to PBA because they understood, because they cover all bases of the beauty industry, and they do their due diligence to make sure that they have the resources that we all need at every level. Didn't even know I was a business of one, but I just happened to be one of the first members of the business of one member community. And so that was a whole that was a whole experience because as soon as I joined membership, it meant I was not alone. And everything that I had to do, every step that I took, I had somebody right there with me. PBA has seen my company personally through a lot of different phases. They were there when I started, they were there when I expanded last year, physically showed up in person. It was incredible to have that type of support. And they, at every time I've reached out to them, they've been there. And it's not just a phone call, it's email. It's not just email, it's going over and rebuilding their website so that it's more friendly, user friendly, and we can find the resources and we don't have to know. It's bringing the education to us so that we don't have to go through and filter and guess what's good education. It's NAHA, having an event that we can showcase what we do, even for those of us like me who are caught up behind the scenes doing all the business work, but still has a passion. I mean, they cover all of the bases, and we are absolutely never by ourselves in this industry. And it's a big industry globally as well as North America, which is what they cover. So you need allies. And it absolutely, you said it perfectly, Kyle, is never competition when it comes to this community. It is always how can we help each other out? And the answer to that question is limitless. It's as far as you can imagine. There haven't been too many interesting situations that I haven't found immediate solutions to or been connected to. And I've also been on the receiving end of, hey, Yolanda, somebody reached out to PBA for resources. We just know you're an expert in this. Can you help out? It goes both ways. And it's also amazing to be able to give back to this big industry as well. So that's
Awesome.
been
No, it's there's so much that we could talk about in this session about, legal structures and payment solutions and all of those things. And I think it sounds like that's what the PBA and resources like this are there for. I could talk again, we could talk about it forever, but we want to really talk about our next subject of growing. So I think obviously if you're truly just getting started, want to talk about those nitty gritty, reach out. That sounds like this group would be there to help you. But so let's imagine someone started it, they got their certifications, licenses, got an entity or decided how they wanted to structure it. Here comes the hard part, I assume, is growing it. So I guess let's go with that. Let's say this scenario, someone in our audience is really just taking their business, trying to take their business to the next level. Let's start with the basics of how do you market yourself, some tips and tricks for growing your client list, maybe from 0 to 10 or 10 to 100. Why don't we jump in with you, Leslie? If you could just give us some of the things that you've learned over the years from your members in your business.
I am going to recommend the thing that I didn't do right and I didn't do it fast enough, and that is hire a coach who can guide you in how to scale your business. Because when I finally hired the coach, I was flailing a little bit and I was using social and I was using email and trying to do everything on my own because I thought I had to do everything by myself. But hiring the coach to really help me center on what is my strategy, and she helped me really figure out and hone in on who is my ideal client. And the rest of the stuff that I was chasing anything and everyone that had skin, right? I'm like, everyone's my client. If you have skin, you can come to me. That wasn't really the best strategy for growing my client. And what she helped me dial in on is that my ideal client for my business was women pretty much over the age of 40. They were having skin changes, didn't know how to deal with it. They, remember in their youth and how they did their makeup then, and now it's not looking the same. And so she helped me hone it. And when I did that, she also helped me build the marketing plan and realize that those clients may not always live on, at the time, Instagram, right? I still needed to focus more on Facebook, where I thought everyone else was telling me, oh my gosh, Instagram and TikTok didn't even exist at that point. And I thought I had to chase that. And then when I realized, no, don't chase everything, really just do one thing really well. And when I spoke to that audience, that's when more clients came, and that's when referrals came, and that's when all of a sudden, oh, so and so told me that you helped them with her makeup and she was loved it, and can I come in for an appointment? And then that's when things really started to gel. So for me, the best advice I can give anyone who's in that spot where you've got your business set up and now you're just trying to figure out, how do I get more clients in the door? There's a lot of tactics that we could talk about, but for me, it's quiet the noise of all of the tactics and throwing everything against the wall. Find a coach that you can trust, work with them to really set a strategy, a plan of action, and follow that through, because it takes time. It takes almost 3 years to really build a strong clientele. And I heard someone say this week, you can't take the elevator to get there, to bypass it all. You still have to take the stairs and take every stair to get there. So you have to have the patience, but really set the strategy to set your course first before you just start trying to Groupon and all these other strategies and noise that'll happen. It really does start with knowing the client that you want to have in your room, in your chair, for example, and then figure out how do I target them in the best way possible.
It makes total sense. I mean, it's much like any business, right? You can't cater to everyone. Why not focus at what you're really good at? Yolanda, do you have any thoughts to that, or what you've learned and really when you were getting started to grow your business?
I would have to agree with Leslie in terms of knowing your target audience. And I come from a slightly different perspective because resource-wise, coaching wasn't an option for me when I started. And so one thing that I would add to what Leslie said is being resourceful. If you're not resourceful, find different ways to start exercising that. If you are, which I was, reaching out to different structures, whether it's, government, whether it's local in your community, or whether it's an association like this they specialize in kind of pulling together the resources for you and putting it all in one place. Again, as opposed to you being like flailing was a great word all over the place and trying to figure out where to pull those resources in. I know that there are tons of resources just in terms of startup through that's offered through the state. Every state is different, but I know that the Secretary of State was always my first stop. This was my second LLC that I started, and so I knew to go there. I didn't need it as much, but I knew I had those resources. The chamber was also a great resource. And again, I was balling on a budget, right? I had the dream and the vision, but I didn't have the resources to back it up. So I had to go to these different resources. And what happens is they throw out education options. I took every free webinar I could find. My schedule at one point was just booked with webinars through the SBA, Small Business Association, through SBDC, Small Business Development Center, through SCORE, I've done several of PBAs, and some the regional association that I belong to, they had some. I mean, the chamber, I at one point when I had the time, I took everything, and it was everything from learning how to file my taxes, to ways to build my website and so forth and so on. And so I would take advantage of the resources that are around you, that aren't maybe as costly as starting off with a coach. And then as soon as you can get to that coaching point aspect, go ahead and graduate to that level so that you can grow and develop your business. So I would never say that it's impossible to do it the other way, but it definitely pays to plug in and lock into your resources.
That's awesome
I love
advice.
that. If I could add,
Please.
you mentioned Yolanda, the Small Business Administration, and I used that resource as well. At the time I was in Michigan, and it was free and they have so many resources they helped me learn how to build a business plan, and they had all kinds of resources for data and research and statistics about my region and about the potential for my client market and service area. And so, I mean, that's huge. All of the resources that exist that you don't know until you start the business and start searching it. And actually, I will also say, like, learning how to file business taxes, and I had a retail component, was selling cosmetics. I had no idea how to do that either. And I'm surprised to say, and I will give credit where credit is due. The state of Michigan tax employees were fabulous. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I know, Kai, you're laughing. I'm like, I called the number thinking I'm just gonna get, I mean, God only knows I'm not gonna get help from the state of Michigan at the time, but they actually did. Like, a live human being answered the call and walked me through all these questions of how to fill out this form and what I needed to do and have to do this quarterly and blah, blah, blah. So don't also, think that no one is out there to help you, because even at the state tax level, I was very impressed with the ability to find someone who truly did want to help me run a great business in the state at that time.
That is heartwarming considering what we're here, right? Of tax authorities, etc.
Right?
No, that's really awesome. And I think again, seeking out those resources where available. I've used SBA myself and in different fields, so that's awesome. Thinking of growing the business, I want to kind of talk about the marketing channels. You all have mentioned various ones: social media, email, website. Maybe we'll start with you, Yolanda, in your experience. What are the best channels for growing your business? What should you really focus on? Is it an even split? Do you activate all of them? I mean, really, just give us kind of your top line of how the heck do you do this, right? And what's the best, I don't know, use of these?
I think the first thing that you have to do is you have to understand the business that you're in. So many of us start businesses and we think we understand like social media because we're on it all the time, or we think we understand, you know, getting an ad in the newspaper. But the truth of the matter is that there's a method to the madness, and each area and platform that you break into in terms of growing and developing your business creates a new environment, a new culture. And so understanding where you're at and being able to kind of transition your mindset from one thing to another so that your business can grow. It's kind of like the plant that's in the pot that's ready to grow, but you're keeping it in the same pot. You have to grow that pot and get a bigger pot for that plant so it can grow. And so one thing I learned from running my education business to developing and expanding into retail was that, and e-commerce at that, was that it was a different culture. It wasn't marketing like it was for my consulting firm. And so I had to train my mind. I did have a coach. I had coaching at first. But outside of that term of coaching, it was really just kind of changing my mindset and not seeing myself as, you know, the mom and pop shop that is not seeing that, you know, because you're trying to reach direct some consumers, they're everywhere, but there's a way to do it when it's e-commerce. And so understanding the room that you're in is a big deal. And then other than that, I would say budgeting for it. That's the only other thing that I cannot stress enough. And that is because you have to have marketing to grow. You have to be able to get the word out about your business. And when we ignore it, or we are, again, so resourceful, it's to a fault, that we're used to kind of picking and choosing things and piecing things together. Well, you can't do that with your business. You can't do that with your messaging. You have to have a plan. So even if you don't have it right there in that moment, that's okay. Be able to see beyond the moment and plan for it. Because as those resources become available, as you go to networking events, as you show up in different rooms, such as this webinar, you will learn information and you will be equipped. If you're not equipped when you come to the door, that's why we come to these things. You will become equipped and you want to be ready to move. And so you always want to have a plan and start budgeting early because it's a part of the process. Again, budgeting in the paper for an e-commerce, it's contradictive, but budgeting in general for marketing, that we can all agree on and we can all be on the same page about. So plan for it, even if you're not quite there yet.
That's interesting. We all think that, social media, hopefully I'll go viral or be organic, but no, there's a budget for all of this. And then it's a business. Like you said, you're an entrepreneur. Leslie, would you add anything on tips for, standing out on social media or some of the marketing channels you absolutely have to do in this business from your perspective?
Yeah, I would say there is always a lot of focus on social media and digital because it is the world in which we live now. Do not underestimate the power of the good old-fashioned referral. That is still to this day, when I talk to licensed professionals and I saw it in my own business, 9 times out of 10, when I had a new bride contact me about doing makeup for her wedding, and I asked, how did you find out about me? It wasn't because she's following me on Instagram or saw me somewhere. It was because, oh, well, Lisa got married last year and I loved her makeup and I asked her who did it and you did. It was, or someone was a bridesmaid in a wedding you did and they loved you and they told me I needed to get in touch with you. It was even, you talk about this, we don't, the idea of not competition, we call it co-opetition. So we cooperate with one another. And there were other makeup artists in my region who would refer people to me because they couldn't handle, and vice versa. I did the same. If I wasn't available on a date, I would give the bride resources resources to help them. So I would really emphasize, don't underestimate the power of that referral business for you, because we are still, when we have our small businesses and we are in that kind of beauty business, it's a local region. And so being visible in that region, giving back in that region, Yolanda mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, other opportunities. Where might your clients be? There was a women's leadership group in my region at the time. I joined that women's leadership group so that my business could stand out for that group of women. So I think going beyond the typical social media, yes, social media can drive business if you're using it correctly, but it really isn't the surefire way. I still go back to, the foundational ways that we've built business over time, and the power of the referral is still an incredible way to build your business.
That's fantastic advice. And I'm curious, this could be for either of you. Is there any tactics you've used to inspire referrals? In marketing, we call it affiliate programs, but is there anything that do you ask your clients, hey, will you refer me? Do you reward in any way? Is there anything that you guys recommend in that? Either?
I mean, I don't do it anymore, but at the time, and I know now, if you're using scheduling software and booking software, most of it have it built in where after you close out the appointment, they'll get a text message with a link that's, if you enjoyed your appointment, write a Google review. The salon where I get my hair done does that, and then they incentivize you that if you write the review, you get put in the drawing to win a product at your next appointment or things like that. So yes, I would say incentivize people to do the referrals. I personally am not a fan of discounting your service, but maybe add value. So if they give you a referral or someone comes in as a result, could you give them an extra hand treatment? Or when I had cosmetics, could I give them a lipstick at their next appointment, or ways that incentivize and add more value versus 10% off your service? That's a me thing.
I love that. And I agree with that, Leslie, in terms of adding value versus taking away from the value of this is your livelihood. But not only that, it's you have a product and a brand that you stand behind. So being consistent with that messaging, but also understand that the value in that. So collaboration, I cannot underestimate collaboration. Like, collaboration is key. And so it stands at the level of, yes, word of mouth, and from a client perspective, but also in aspects of if you could work with other businesses to help promote, or throw an event together with another business that would help promote both businesses, you have a wider audience that way. So my partnership and my membership I call them partnerships, right? My memberships, because I work alongside with them as though we're partners. So my membership with the chamber helps broaden my scope locally. So I'm known as a cosmetologist in my community through my business, through the chamber. My membership with PBA does the same, but for an entire continent. So you have those establish those collaborations, those relationships, and figure out ways to work with people. That spreads word of mouth almost as quickly as word of mouth, because it puts you in audiences you wouldn't have been in if it were just you.
Yeah. That's really, really good. So speaking of growing your business, I think all of that was amazing advice. But you've all talked about potentially adding services, and something you keep hitting on is products, right? And you've mentioned an e-commerce network. Can you guys talk about where that might add to growing one's business? Products play a big part in the beauty world. Is that something, some people should be reselling? Is it part of the salon? Could you do your own? I guess, could you share some of the insights into the product side?
Products are essential. This is the name of the game. And globally, I can't even quote the stat, but we're in the billions in terms of our retail values. And then, I want to say, I just recently looked up natural hair products, because that's what my categorization is. And I think it was like, that's listed, because you also have people that aren't listed that you have to count and consider. I think it was upwards of 120,000 different brands just for natural hairstyle that are like registered somewhere. And so you have to understand, like, retail is a huge part of how salons make money, how individuals, sole proprietors make money, how everybody wants that piece of that, and retail is the easiest way to get it. And so that's good and bad, right? For those of us that are skilled and trained in this profession, we have some integrity, at least hopefully we do, behind that. So we want things that are quality, and we don't want to put anything out that isn't quality. But for every quality product, there is probably 10 to 20 that aren't out there. So you're not just in competition with the good ones, you're in competition with the not so good ones. And so you have to be strategic about it, right? I was a customer for the product line that I have now for 2 years before I purchased it. And so really got to know it. And I was at the point in my career that I wouldn't promote anything that I didn't really truly know for myself. But because I knew people depended on my word. And so that was important to me. But I think that, because of the day and age that we're in, things are so quick, so instant. Anybody can come up with a product line. The year that my product line launched, which was last year, Beyonce, Rihanna, and Dwayne Wade came out with their own product. I was like, how am I going to go up against them? But everybody sees the value, or they see the dollars. They don't necessarily see the value. But there are things that we bring to the table as professionals in this industry that nobody can ever duplicate. So having that pride in what you do, and doing the research and doing the legwork, because it is something that can be very easily duplicated and monetized. And so a lot of people are after it. But you can still stand out. I'm living proof. Even if you're small, you can still be mighty. Just be smart about it. Definitely find people in the industry that you can learn from, that are willing to mentor you, and whose examples you can follow, because there's a lot to it. But there is definitely a way to be successful at it. Just kind of have to get past all of the I don't know what to say, the fluff. I don't know, I think my battery's going out. The fluff, there's a lot of noise. Like Leslie was saying, being able to quiet that noise and really focus on your target market and know who you are wanting to reach, and go after it. Don't be afraid to go after it.
Appreciate that. Anything you'd add on the product side, Leslie?
I would add, when you're a sole entrepreneur and you're by yourself, you can only start to make more money. You can only work so many hours. You can only increase your prices so high. So the way that you're going to continue to make more money is either expand and hire more people or retail. And for me, it became very real. I was giving makeup lessons. That was one of my services. And I made a list of product ideas for this client. And she messaged me after the appointment and said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I just went to Sephora and I dropped over $200. And I was like, what? I let her walk out of my salon, and she could have spent $200 more with me if I had had all of those things that she went out to have to go somewhere else to purchase. And so that's what got me thinking about, okay, what do I bring in to my environment? What product line do I go with? Product lines that I can just retail, or I decided to birth my own, so to speak. I did private labeling and had Leslie Perry Cosmetics. And what Yolanda said too, I tried a lot of different manufacturers before I settled on the company that I used, because I was picky. I wanted to make sure that what I put my name on was something that I not only would use and recommend, but that I could stand behind. And when I did that, there were months where, when you're starting out, your first year, you don't really make a lot of money. You might not even make any money, actually. First year, you usually don't. So there were several months where the retail sales carried me because I didn't have enough services to cover my rent, for example, or all the other expenses that I faced that month. So I know that, in our industry, there's a lot of pushback against selling, but I never felt like I was selling either. And my clients never felt like they were being sold, because I was teaching them, I was educating them, and I was helping them understand why certain products were better for their skin. They didn't have to walk away with them. And sometimes they took them all, sometimes they took one or two. But for me, it's a deep part of what we do, like you said, Yolanda, as professionals, that people trust us and need us to make recommendations for them. Just like a medical professional, you go to the doctor, they make recommendations for you to take a medicine or a vitamin or a supplement or whatever. We have to do the same to be respected as professionals.
That's interesting. I saw Yolanda like doing this so much of everything you just said.
Well, I want to add to the e-commerce, Kyle, because you asked specifically about that in terms of scaling your business. And it's just like in any other realm where you're putting yourself on a platform that can reach anybody. E-commerce is a really, if you've got a good strategy behind you, and a good product that you're familiar with, and you can really put your brand behind. E-commerce is a great way to do that because you get in front of everybody, but you also have to be able to keep up with that marketing. Again, it's about having that plan and that strategy in mind, and having those goal sets and those mile markers. Because, like Leslie said, it doesn't always pay out right away. And matter of fact, in most cases, it doesn't. So you end up more so on the top end the first few years that you're getting it out there, but it definitely can supplement and eventually replace if you do it correctly. So I would start small if you can, because it can be very daunting to start like internationally, like some of us do. But start small and learn as you go. Pace yourself. Any lessons, don't consider them mistakes, consider them lessons. Learn as you go and build from there.
All awesome advice. And, we talked about coaching at the beginning of this. It sounds like if you're looking for help in building your product line, we've got two experts here who have a lot of experience and be willing to talk to you about it. So I appreciate that. Okay.
I just made a lot of mistakes, Kyle. Like Yolanda said, start small. I didn't either. I went all in on that cosmetics. I had everything. And looking back now, hindsight is 2020. Like, no. I should have started with like a curated signature items, like an under eye concealer, this and that. No, I went all in with like every shade of foundation and everything. I'm just, yeah, I wouldn't do that again, but I learned.
Lessons learned, and you're sharing it. I appreciate it. So we've talked so much about starting and growing the business. We've got to talk about that other portion that we came here to talk about today, which you all shared at the beginning of this, like, okay, we need this information at the beginning. So I'm so excited to bring Joanne into this conversation to talk about not the most exciting subject, but such an important topic of insurance and insuring and protecting. And I always hear this, having done these webinars now, insurance is truly about protecting your risk, right? Or passing your liability and your risk off to somebody else, the insurance provider. So with that, I'd love to bring in Joanne to talk to us. I guess, Joanne, if you would just start us with the basics of, we've got a beauty business, different types, everybody kind of works in different fields. What kind of insurance policies are we talking about here? And what are kind of the normal coverages of those policies?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. So your most basic policies that you need as a cosmetologist, a beauty professional, are going to be your general liability and your professional liability. General liability, that's your slips and trips and falls. That's damaging someone's very expensive handbag because your hot tools were too close to them. Somebody slips next to a wet sink. Those are your general liability. Really, it's very important. Your professional liability, that is where it protects your services that you're offering. A hair color mishap, a bad reaction to some products that you've used. There are a lot of things, but that you may not think about as important. Sorry.
No problem. We all work from home these days.
So your professional liability, that's really where you're protecting the service that you are offering. And so those are really the two. Absolutely, if you can't do any of the other insurances that we can talk about, it's going to be those two for sure.
You want to go grab him and I'll ask these two?
Yeah,
go for it.
Let me just do that really quick.
Oops, sorry. Let me ask you guys, when you first started, what did you know about insurance? Did you know you had to have it right away? Was that part of certification? And where did you look? I mean, how do you know how to look this up?
I knew I had to have it because I had the example of my mom and my sister running salons and businesses. So I knew that. And then because I was renting a room inside of a salon environment, they required that I had the liability insurance to be able to rent this. So I knew I had to have it. And at the time, I used my current insurance, my home insurance provider, and found policy. So they did business insurance as well and product insurance. And so I used that. I mean, that was just the way that I went with it. But so I might be a little bit different in knowing that I had to have it. And we do we have a student program. We actually talk to them about all of these business things so they know too, because otherwise you start working and you're like, wait, I need what? I need insurance.
Mhm.
Or you find out the hard way that someone does get hurt or has a bad skin reaction and they come after you and you didn't know that you needed insurance and now you're not protected. So we try to start that early on with students in their careers as well at PBA.
Yeah. So Joanne, you're back with us. So my question is, you mentioned these two, the liability and the professional. It sounds like you recommend those off the bat, kind of no
Absolutely.
matter what, or is there certain circumstances where you only need one or the other?
No matter what, both are important. They work hand in hand. And I always suggest that, like with our company and the product that we offer, use the same insurance carrier. You can find it out there. It might be cheaper, or you might think you're getting a deal with a general liability from one company and a professional from the other. These insurance coverages work very much hand in hand. It can sometimes be difficult to determine, is this a general liability? Is this a professional? When it's with the same company, you don't have to worry about where it's covered or who's covering it. You just know that you are covered. So I think that's a very important thing. But absolutely, those are without a doubt, don't go without your general and professional liability.
Okay, so those are the kind of the foundation. What are other, I mean, are there add-ons? I've done enough of these to know that each industry is different. But is there other add-on policies that you could explain maybe the difference and why someone might want to think about that in terms of risk?
Absolutely. So we can go through a couple of these. Another one that I think is going to be very important, especially as you're starting out, and that's some tools and equipment coverage. You put so much money in these tools and these products that you're using on your clients are extremely expensive. Your chairs, everything. Uh, and they would be difficult to replace. And so definitely some of your tool and equipment coverage. Absolutely. If that's the next thing that you can add on to insurance, I think that it's important that you do. In fact, one of the top claims that we see is for loss, theft, accidental breakage of your tools and equipment. So, customers trip over your lights and your steam machines and your wax and they get broken and you don't want to have to replace that. That is the livelihood. That's what you need to do your business. So those are a couple. Some of the other probably more nuanced, and maybe as you grow, you might want cyber liability. That's one that protects you if you're doing transactions online. You're taking customers' payments through your phone, through your computer systems. You're scheduling online. You're getting customers' personal information. And every business, whether you're a small business, a large business, you're subject to be hacked. You just accidentally click on a link in an email that you think is from a customer. That could expose your entire client list, possibly their credit card information, to nefarious players. So I think cyber liability is a really great option.
And I can jump into that one because we just did a whole webinar on cyber liability with CVL from Insurance Canopy. And I don't know if you got my other panelists know this, but I mean, the average payout on those claims are $230,000 because you're talking about like there's those things called ransomware where they take a hold of your website and all of your data and then they say pay us $200,000 or we, blow it up or never give it back or expose everything and you have to pay it to get this, especially in e-commerce business, to get your e-commerce business back. Well, the insurance pays it. and get your business back. So it's just things, I even went out and bought it for myself because I was so scared after doing this webinar of cyber liability. And you think if you use Square, if you use all these things, well, that's their deal. No, they have in their terms and conditions that you actually are responsible for this and can be held liable for it. And it's such a cheap add-on. Anyway, not to overly sell cyber liability, but it scared me. So I have to jump in on that one.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kyle, because it is, and you just don't think how vulnerable you are, but it really is as easy as a text message, an email link that you just don't think about because you're busy. I think some other ones, and especially as you grow or based on the type of business you have, you're going to want to look at maybe moving into your spa and salon. Once you become an owner, instead of that individual sole proprietor and you're renting booths, you're going to want to expand and cover your employees, and you have a little bit more risk. So that's another coverage that we can expand into. And then I think some of the ancillary coverages that you'll want to think about, if you're a mobile salon or you are going and visiting your clients at their location, you're going to want to look into some commercial auto coverage and really look into the things that are going to cover your business, because it might just be, I'm jumping in my car with my tools. But when you are doing that as a professional and as a business owner, you're putting more than just your personal insurance on the line. Your business could also be sued. So a commercial auto insurance policy is really going to be important when you're out. Maybe you have your name of your business on the side of your car. You become a commercial auto at that point. And so I really feel it's important to look at some of those coverage expansions as you grow, and sometimes even just as your individual sole proprietor.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And first of all, that all sounds like a lot of different policies and a lot to navigate. Are we talking crazy expensive here? How does one navigate that? I mean, I want to ask that too, because I always share this, and you've heard me say this before, Joanne, that I heard this on a different webinar and I started to say it before. Insurance is about deciding how much of the liability you want somebody else to take on, and then how much you're willing to pay them for that, right? But and it's, I don't want to get sued. I don't want to, things like that. I want to pass that off. But are we talking thousands? I mean, what, for these add-on policies, especially as a sole proprietor, I just want to, calm the nerves of the audience that what you're talking about.
Right. Our insurance starts at $96 a year for our individuals. That's your general and professional. The add-ons, especially we offer a monthly payment options. So those add-ons can be just a few dollars a month to add this coverage. So no, it's not expensive. And Yolanda touched on something in the very first when she introduced herself and began talking about working with an insurance company that specializes in what your industry is. And I thought that was very important and very poignant that she brought that up, because we do understand, number one, that you're small businesses working for yourself. This is your whole livelihood. This is your whole life. And we have tried to make and been very successful at making this insurance scalable to what your needs are. And we have a whole entire team of licensed customer service representatives. They're non-commissioned, so you don't have to be scared that picking up the phone is going to cost you extra. But they're there to walk you through all these things. Insurance can be overwhelming and you're not sure what you need. Guess what? That's what our customer service people are there for, to call and say, I just don't know where I'm at, or I'm thinking of expanding into this next phase of my business. Does the insurance I have protect me, or what do you recommend? And they're very happy to help with all those questions. So you're not out there alone. Again, we're a partner with PBA, and we're here to help you answer those questions and help you determine what amounts of insurance you need and which add-ons might be right, which ones you might not need right away.
Another story that goes along with what you're saying that I always share in these webinars that I've heard is treat your insurance so the yearly checkup like your health. Because your business changes every year. You mentioned I got into products, I started and I added a new line, I added a new service. Your insurance needs to change with your business. And if you just like sign up once when you have 10 clients, you're doing one service, but then 10 years down the road, you've got products, something happens, your insurance might not cover you. So have those conversations annually with your insurance provider to say, hey, I added 6 new services and I added, a new service area, or now I've got my truck going. Tell them, because that affects it. And it may affect, at the end of the day, the dollar amount, but probably not too much, but you're protected. And I thought that was really good advice to do that annually.
Absolutely. That's great advice.
So I have to ask our panelists, have you ever had to deal with insurance? Any personal stories you can share of why this, to scare our audience into, okay, maybe I need insurance? Either of you?
I'm so glad you asked. I was ready to dive in on this one because, man, what a learning curve when it came to just what I think we all know of as, everyday citizens as far as insurance is concerned, and what is needed specifically in the beauty profession in terms of coverage and just protecting not only your investment, but your skills, your talents, your heart's work. It's a lot to take on all at once, but I learned in transitioning and expanding my business and picking up the line, because I went straight to, like Leslie said, my auto and home insurance care providers um, to get quotes on different insurance policies for what I was educated on that I would need for my business. First as an LLC, still considered sole proprietor. Then as a consultant and in the professional realm. I mean, I was going down the line. I have literally 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a project that I'm working on this year that is going to cause me to go back to my policy, but at least through 5 different aspects of insurance that I have to do the things that I do on a daily basis. And I believe Joanne just added a few more that I might need to cover, but making sure that I'm covering the basis, right? Based on what I'm doing, talking about growing with your business. But it was months. And I did it well enough in advance, it didn't affect my production, but it was months. And then that every insurance, and I went to at least 3. My rule is always have 3 to compare to. And nobody could give me a quote for this product liability. And so at the very last minute, it was like go time. I remembered my experience with my regional association and thought, let me check PBA. And I went straight to the benefits. That's why it's so helpful that they curated the tools the way they did, because I knew exactly where to go, even though I didn't know if I would find what I was looking for. And that's where I saw insurance canopy, and I prayed when I clicked on it that they had what I was looking for. Because I didn't understand why like all insurances didn't look alike. Like in my view, it was like, okay, well, you got this, you got that, you should be able to make this. It was not that way. So having people that specialize in this industry, that understand and know what it is that you're looking for and can help you package that out is priceless. The next part was when I made that call, and I'm like, Leslie, like the state hears from me every month when I'm filing my taxes. I swear they're gonna get sick of me, but they never do, because I always have questions. But it was the same with my insurance. And when I called and that person picked up, and I was like, this is what I need. And I tried to slow down my speech and speak clear English, because I thought it maybe was me why the insurance providers couldn't figure it out. And they were like, oh, no. We know exactly what you're looking for. And it just made so much sense for it to come from a source like PBA and to be exactly what me as a member and as a business owner who was expanding, but expanding into an area that I'm not as familiar with, that it all came together that way. And that's the value that you have in the membership. And that's the value that you have. They put that work in to make sure that insurance company was there for me when I needed it. So I spared no expense as soon as I locked in my policy. And I will tell you, when I told you about budgeting earlier, like it's not breaking the bank to cover the basis. So don't be scared away by what the overhead costs are. It's worth it. But I called them immediately and said, you guys don't know how long and hard I've looked for this specific coverage. And every insurance provider that I spoke to acted like I was speaking a foreign language. And so I wish I thought of it earlier. I was just glad I thought of it at all. And now I just came up for renewal. Now that I have that relationship, anytime I have a question, anytime I need to add anything, it's all under the same, I don't have to do the trial and error. It's there and they know what to do and they know what I need. So I can't speak enough about having that as a benefit to those of us as members, as business owners, and having great partners who know this industry as well as they do. So
I have to say, this was not a paid advertisement, but
It
that
was
was a heck
not,
of a
but it's true
testimonial.
and
It's
authentic.
not.
I told you, Yolanda's one of our, I mean, she is like the ideal member, you know, using our things. And I'll add really quickly, Kyle, because you and I talked about this week. I did not have to file a claim. However, we all think it won't happen to us. Nothing's going to go wrong. And there were two instances that still really are just burned in my brain because I can't believe it happened to me. One, I glued a bride's eyes shut when I was applying false lashes. Nothing bad happened. Everything was fine, but it happened. The second was a little more serious where I was waxing a client's eyebrows and I wasn't being careful and the wax dripped into her eyelashes. So luckily, I always had my clients have their eyes closed during the brow wax. But getting wax out of your eyelashes when the purpose of wax is to remove hair, but I mean, that was like a terrifying experience for me to think I might not be able to get this out and what will happen as a result. But then to know, okay, but that's why I have my insurance. If it were to happen, thankfully my clients were lovely individuals and it was all good and but things happen and continue to happen. And so this is why, again, we all don't want to talk about insurance and blah, 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 but it is such an important part of what we do as professionals because we are touching people for a living and things can and will go wrong.
And exactly. Oh, and you never know. And it's about passing that risk and that liability off. And you mentioned something, Yolanda, I want to point out is, and again, this goes to when your business changes, you've got to reevaluate your insurance. You mentioned doing consulting. I've done enough of these webinars now to know, oh, there's actually liability in consulting someone that might not be covered under a general liability policy, right, Joanne? That if I'm consulting and teaching and they go out and do something based off of my teachings, that could change my insurance.
Absolutely, Kyle. And, you know, one way that we have made this insurance affordable but scalable is, you know, not everybody needs that liability where they're going to be a teacher or a consultant as far as teaching other members within the cosmetics and beauty profession. And not everybody needs a product liability because they're selling their own product line. And so for us to make these different coverages that we've talked about, we've got your basic one, or it's not a basic coverage, but your first level, I would say. And then as you grow, you can add a product liability coverage. You can expand into these other coverages that we have talked about. But what I really wanted to touch on, I appreciate Leslie bringing this up, is no matter how careful you are, no matter how good of friends your clients are, accidents happen. And yes, they're very often accidents. Sometimes you're in a rush because your client showed up late and your next client's there. You know, it does just happen. And these claims, the insurance is here to protect you and to help you mitigate that risk. But think about how much you've put into your business, into your education to get your license, to get the training that you need. So that's what insurance is going to help you to protect, so that you can pay your customer's claim and they still get to be your friend and your client because it got settled and there's no hard feelings, and you get to see them next month when they need something else done.
No, I appreciate that. Well, we have gone even over the time that I thought we would, and we have some questions I want to get to, but quickly, you know, again, thank you. We're talking about start growing and protecting. Any closing thoughts before we get to some questions from anyone on the panel that we didn't touch on, and that piece of advice you've been dying to give, anything at all, before we head off? No, I'm getting the no's because we covered it. Awesome. Well, I'm going to dive into some questions we've got here. I will admit a lot of them that have come in are very legally or seem very specific. So I'll warn you all, again, this is not legal advice. And definitely do your own research on everything, but just jumping into it here. This one was right at the beginning. This person asked, and maybe this is for Leslie, or I don't know, but they asked, so wait, what is the best structure for a beauty business? Do you recommend an LLC or a sole proprietor? You mentioned both. Any thoughts there?
I mean, I would say, and Yolanda jump into, it depends. So I ended up, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. It depends on taxes and laws in your state, because there's state taxes and federal taxes, and how you are set up as a self-employed individual. I was set up as an LLC sole proprietor, but there's other, you can do an S corp, you can eventually become incorporated as, I mean, there are a lot of options. So I would, as you mentioned, I would defer to an appropriate tax professional that could help guide you in what is the best setup for your business based on what you're doing, as in what you're, and it goes back to protecting yourself too, of how you set yourself up, and if someone were to sue you, for example.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that the way my business coach explained it to me so that it made sense from a non-technical perspective was the difference between protecting yourself behind a classification of LLC, S Corp, C Corp, so forth and so on, is something going wrong, unexpected, and you being at fault as versus your business being at fault. So it's definitely something that you would want to look into, but I would say having something, because even as an LLC, as Leslie said, you're still a sole proprietor. But if you're sole proprietor with nothing else following that, that means that all of the onus is on you. So that's how it was explained to me, where it really made sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm by no means a legal professional, but I know limited liability corporation is LLC, so I like the limited liability part. But yeah, I think obviously it depends on everybody's situation. A best friend of mine's in the business. He just got his LLC and he's all excited. So I think it depends on your business. This one's probably for Joanne. Can I have a client sign a waiver form that helps eliminate my liability?
Absolutely. We always recommend, and again, a legal document, so I'd have it looked over by a professional. But waivers don't stop someone from suing you, but they can definitely help limit your liability or limit those claims from coming in. So always a health questionnaire, waivers. You told me that you're not allergic to XYZ ingredients. I used them, you had a reaction. That can definitely help and help mitigate your risks.
Yeah. Any insight there, Leslie or Yolanda? Do you guys use those?
I did, because I did chemical peels and waxing, and what I found is, if anyone is familiar with the former TV show House, we talked about all patients lie, all clients lie. They're going to come in and tell you they're not using retinol and they're not using this and they're not, and they probably are, or maybe they don't know that that ingredient is in the skincare they're using, and then you wax them and their skin lifts. And then they're upset at you, and then so I always had waivers for my services and contracts, especially in the bridal industry. Contracts were huge to protect me from someone deciding at the last minute to cancel a service, and then I'm out money and I can't replace that service because it's too late. So that's a huge, I mean, that's not really insurance related, but contracts are a huge part of what I recommend as well to protect yourself.
Definitely use waivers and liability and contracts, pretty much in everything from consulting to my client work. And even though I don't do as much with chemical, I still find I work with a lot of youth kids, so underage. That's kind of, you gotta have it. And then obviously with my larger contracts, so they're everywhere for me. And then again, it's just an added layer. It doesn't do everything, but it definitely makes sure that I at least covered it with who I'm working with.
This one actually says to Yolanda. Yolanda, how do I handle no-shows or last-minute cancellations? Do you charge a fee?
I think it just kind of depends on the structuring of your business. I think a lot of people start off not wanting to do that because they want to give their clients the benefit of the doubt. At the end of the day, if you are in a space where you're trying to transition from being kind of a neighborhood provider to more of a structured business, you want to uphold those business practices, like best practices. And so you want to give your clients some some accountability. Some people do it by, especially if you have a software program that you work through for booking, where they charge deposits. That is debatable within the industry. Some people think it's absolutely ridiculous. Some people think, I'm not going to do it without this. Think about your target audience, and think about what types of mutual expectations that you can set and what you're comfortable with. At the very least, I let people know that there will be maybe an additional cost down the road if you call me and you no-show, versus like in that moment, if I don't feel comfortable charging it. I've done it different ways at different times depending on what I'm doing, but definitely don't feel afraid to protect your business and uphold your professionalism and hold your customers accountable in some capacity. And like I said, some software programs can help you program that in.
Gotcha. And actually, this was another one I was going to ask anyway, but it goes with what you're asking. Do you recommend a scheduling software to help stay organized from day one? This person asked.
I don't have one at the moment. It's been a while since I've used one, but they're pretty easy to find. And if you know of anybody that's in the industry currently, either somebody that you're going to, or a colleague, or even your local cosmetology school should be able to recommend some good ones. I don't know if I haven't checked PBA's site for those things, but there might even be
We
one.
have partners.
That's what, yeah, I like definitely don't rule out the association, because that's where you want to go. Is that they've curated those lists for us. So I would definitely look into that using the resources that you have there.
Yeah, and I would recommend using it because it just streamlines your business back end for you. So when I had my business, I had the booking software, and every month I could run the reports and I could see like what are my high months, low months, what is the trend, what could I plan for my budget in the next year. There's just so much valuable data in having that. And I also am a proponent of online booking and allowing your clients to do online booking so you're not in the scheduling hell. You know what I'm talking about. You're going back and forth in text message for 30 times, and no, that doesn't work and that doesn't work. By the time you hear back from them, someone else picked that spot. So just let people pick and put rules around it. And the softwares allow you to put rules around it so that people book the right thing and you train the clients how to book. But I just, efficiency is the name of the game, and clients expect it. So much of what we do is online booking, and I know of clients that tell me if a salon or a service provider doesn't allow online booking, I won't even come to you. Like, I just don't have time to be trying to have to call you to make an appointment. I'm not doing that. So
Yeah,
Well,
some
if I
people
can
take it as a
represent-
sign of professionalism, whether or not you have it. And it can also help with things like marketing. So keeping in mind, using all of your resources, and you can do things like emails or text messaging when you have specials. So they're very helpful.
I'll represent the client here that yes, please do that, because I don't want to text about it. I just want to put
exactly.
it on my calendar. This one's probably for Joanne, and I again, it's kind of a specific scenario, so I don't know if you can answer. But if I'm cutting my friend's hair at my house, does my insurance still apply?
It does. I love that question. Your insurance follows you wherever you are providing your services. It's not specific to just the booth you rent. It goes to your client's house, to that bridal venue, that wedding venue, wherever you are providing services, your insurance will follow you.
That's great. Cool. Well, I think that's most of our questions. I really, really appreciate it. We had a longer one than we planned here today, but that's because we got some great information out. Thank you so much to our panelists. We had a little section to talk about PBA, but I think that we got a lot of that out. Go check out PBA. PBA is amazing, and we can tell that this is a major resource for people in the industry. But thank you so much to Leslie, Yolanda, and Joanne. We have their contact information if you're rewatching this on the blog that you're looking at. So reach out, and thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.